Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Plane podcast, where we talk with the movers and shakers that are redefining the future of commercial aviation. As usual, before we start, let me remind you once more that all previous episodes of this podcast, as well as many other aviation stories, are available on the All Plane website. That's allplane.tv, ALLPLANE.tv. Now, today's episode is a bit different because last week it was EBACE week. That is the Executive Aviation Show in Geneva, Switzerland, which I attended. And instead of me talking today with someone one-on-one, I thought it was going to be more interesting to invite a couple of aviation friends that were also at the show. And by the way, they both have been on this podcast before. I'm talking about Adam Twiddle and Morel Westerman. Adam is a former RAF pilot and founder of Private Fly, an executive aviation digital booking platform that was later acquired by OneSky, which is a corporate aviation group that owns FlexJet, among other businesses. Adam is also the chair of the Advanced Air Mobility Working Group at the European Business Aviation Association, EBAA. And Morel Westerman is a futurist and consultant based in Switzerland, working in the field of sustainable mobility, and also one of the first people in Europe to fly regularly on battery-powered electric aircraft. Morel was also one of the pilots that made headlines in 2020 when he completed an all-electric flight across the whole length of Germany, from the Alps all the way to the North Sea, and setting several records along the way. So with Adam and Morel, we're going to talk about an aspect of EBACE that I found really interesting, and that's aviation sustainability. Executive aviation and sustainability, you ask? These two terms might sound contradictory with each other, but if you look closer, the picture that emerges is actually a lot more nuanced, a lot more complex. This is actually what I found interesting of this edition of the show. How both the executive aviation industry and the new wave of sustainable flight startups seem to have realized that they need each other, that they can help each other. The executive aviation world is well aware that it has become a very fat target for climate activism, not without some basis, and it needs to get its act together on this front. At the same time, the emerging sustainable aviation ecosystem has found in private and corporate aviation one of the most promising ways to get up to scale fast. So perhaps unsurprisingly, there has been a convergence of sorts between these two apparently very different worlds, and we are going to talk about all this here on this episode of the podcast. How are you guys?
Very well indeed. Thank you, Miguel.
Greetings from Switzerland. How are you?
Today we have two professionals that know the aviation industry very well, and the three of us were at EBACE last week. We have Morel Westerman, who is a futurist and one of the few people trained to fly electric aircraft. It's a small but growing community. It's going to be growing a lot, I guess, in the coming years. But so far, it's still like a small club. Let's say it this way. And then we have Adam Twiddle, who is basically the founder of a company, Private Fly, that was acquired by the group that has FlexJet. And he is now the head of Future Flight at FlexJet, or is the name of the group OneSky?
Yes, we have a number of brands within the family. FlexJet is the most known with 250 private jets. And then we have Sentient with 10,000 jet card holders, FX Air doing on-demand charter, Private Fly. And then around that, the flying companies, there are also investments in simulators, in MROs, leasing companies. So it's a very extensive group, but only within private aviation.
Mm-hmm. And you are also the chair of Advanced Air Mobility at EBAA, which is the European Business Aviation Association, which was one of the organizations that is involved in organizing the EBACE show, which is this very large air show, basically, that happens in Geneva every year. It's a bit gathering of the whole aviation industry and executive aviation industry. And here is one why I think it's interesting and why I thought it was a good idea to do a recap episode. This is an industry that's increasingly embracing the new wave of startups that are trying to decarbonize aviation, in part because, well, there's an obvious thing is that the aviation in general, but executive aviation in particular, is in a very tight spot now with the sustainability, climate change problem. The three of us were there at EBACE. I would like to start by asking each of you, what were your highlights of the show? What were the things that caught your eye? Who wants to start? Adam, go for it.
Adam, go ahead.
EBACE gives us an annual chance just to check on the progress of what's happening within business aviation. You know, it's a bit like watching a child grow up. If you're with that child every single day, you don't notice its growth. However, if you just see a friend's child once a year, you notice some growth, and you sometimes see years where they really progress and change. And I think this year at EBACE, we saw a significant amount of growth towards totally embracing sustainability as part of business aviation community. It's not something in the future that one day will be happening. This is happening today, and we see it across business aviation. I mean, if you're not carbon offsetting, if you're not buying as much SAF as you can buy, if you're not looking at your future fleet and what is available now to order, you're really missing out. So EBACE for me this year was all about sustainability. It was everywhere.
I was just there for one day, but it was really packed with all sorts of activities, at least in the workshop and the panels that I attended about the advanced air mobility, electric, etc. So yeah, that's definitely I would say the big theme this year, at least. Morel, what about you? You've been active in the field of electric aviation for quite some time.
Yeah.
Just a note here, I just would like to add one short note is that both Morel and Adam, you've been, I think, the only two people that have been already twice in this podcast. Morel was actually the first time when he completed a record-setting flight across Germany on an electric aircraft, which I think that was the first time that someone had done that, yeah.
Already 3 years ago, 2020.
Yeah.
Time's flying. Time's really flying.
Indeed, indeed. And I think you are preparing a new challenge with electric aviation, yeah?
We will come back on that. So this was a very fun project already 2 years ago with the world's first electric certified aircraft, the Pipistrel Velis Electro, and we were able to set the records. Setting records is always easy. If you're doing the first time, it's easy because challenging this or breaking records is a little bit more interesting than
the Wright brothers. Wright brothers also set a record back in the day.
That's easy, yeah. But Adam, I really liked your going position for the EBACE, providing an overview for the progress. And the comparison to the small child is absolutely fantastic. And as you said, embracing sustainability, and everyone is trying to make it as green as possible. I would like to challenge you, not in person, but I would challenge the industry on that, because it's a lot of greenwashing there. So I see not so many progress, or such a big progress as you probably gave me the impression we had. So they are incremental progress I can see and I can follow. Oh, here is a couple of percent, 1 to 3% more efficient aircraft design, a little bit whatever engine optimization with 1 to 3% less carbon emissions. Yes, but no, it won't be enough to get this industry, especially the private and the business aviation, which are mostly recognized as the bad guys only for the richer millionaires and billionaires on the world, only for a few, only very expensive, and with a tremendous carbon footprint, it won't be enough. These incremental changes won't be enough. We need a disruptive change, and this can come from electric aviation. I know my aircraft here is 600 kilograms, which is far away from everything what you can use in a business context. I am fully with you on that, but we need to embrace even more these new technologies, and not only looking for, you buying as much SAF you can get and trying to make it a little more efficient and not flying these aircrafts empty around. Yes, but I think we will have a tremendous change in the next couple of years with a new power train, energy source, and propulsion system. And this is not anymore incremental, it will be disruptive.
Very good points. Very good points, Morel. Indeed, there is so much work to do. And EBACE is just the surface of what's happening in advanced air mobility. It is such an exciting sector to be in. We have now well over 500 different companies all racing to get electric and hybrid and hydrogen-powered aircraft to the front line into operations. I mean, let's look. What was the most exciting aircraft at EBACE this year for you? inside the exhibit hall.
Okay.
Who was the manufacturer who had all of the attention, who had all of the press, and had the longest queue? In your eyes, which aircraft was it?
You're talking about the aircraft. I'm talking about the mock-up. It's Lilium. So your Lilium, I would say, catched all the news headlines and this queue, but this was not an aircraft. So to be honest, I'm not absolutely sure what I should think about Lilium. So I'm at the one hand
let's start with the cabin. I mean, it is a stunning cabin. They've done so well.
But if you're designing an aircraft, do you start with the cabin?
Well, if you want somebody to fly in it, yes. We as pilots, and I too have flown the Pipistrel. It's a fantastic first electric aircraft, and you can get the sense of what's coming. But unless you're designing an aircraft for the actual passengers, if you're thinking only as the pilots or only as engineers, we're not going to have any success. People have got to feel safe when they walk out towards that aircraft. It has got to have ramp presence if you're going to get people to fly on it. And once you're inside, it's got to feel safe. It's got to feel luxurious. You've got to feel like you're in good hands. And that's what Lilium has done. Now, the reason why they didn't have an aircraft on display, and in fact, this was exactly the same reason when you spoke to Voltero, why didn't their aircraft have the aircraft on display, is because these aircraft are flying. These aren't just mock-ups. They've got real flying aircraft which are on very tight schedules to get through the certification process. So yes, Lilium are flying, and yes, they've transitioned from the vertical takeoff to the cruise, and Pipistrel are flying and through certification, and Voltero, we've seen fantastic trials in Scotland, in Orkney, of various aircraft actually doing jobs. We've got Volocopter coming next year to the Paris Olympics.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? And their CEO is determined to get across the certification line to get commercial operations.
But
EASA have told them they will not be the blocker. So all of these aircraft are flying. And I think you're right. We wanted to see live demonstrations, and we have to speak to Geneva Airport, and we have to ask them why they were perhaps hesitant about having flying operations, and the momentum has to be with us. We need to get these aircraft at the show and flying. I completely agree.
But you're totally right. But these names you mentioned as the most exciting came out of the industry, so they are not growing in incremental change and developments. They are from outside. So Volocopter and Lilium both are totally new names and new brands entering now the market. So I think the market leaders today will be challenged a lot by the newcomers.
Yeah, then that's what's great. That's what's brilliant. That's what Tesla did to the car manufacturer. They said, well, nobody's doing it, so we can do it. We're a software company. We'll come in and pick it up. But, I think we have to be fair. Textron, with their very clever investment in Pipistrel. We had Rob Scholl there speaking on the panel about all of the support that Textron is offering this fantastic electric aircraft company, and not wanting to be that elephant stamping on the beautiful butterfly, but wanting to offer it all of the support.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that this is really an investment, not only buying the technology to bring it to the desk tray. Yeah.
And let's not forget about Embraer, the giant in South America who've done so well coming into business aviation from the military and airline sectors. They've invested heavily in Eve Air Mobility, not just manufacturing an aircraft, but also looking at the airspace coordination. So they've got a big team looking at that. We've got Boeing, who've invested in Wisk. I mean, I think the big players are probably doing the right strategy. They realize that actually sometimes the bigger guys can't be as quick and as nimble as smaller, but they're going to invest. They're going to sometimes sit back and watch and pour the money in and support. And I think that's a great strategy.
If I may introduce another element here, let's say one of the reasons sometimes the executive aviation industry gets a bad press is that it's an industry that's mainly used by the very rich and powerful. But if these new technologies become commonplace, there's the promise there that the sort of air mobility that now is available to the rich is going to become available to more people with all these electric aircraft that are expected to have lower costs. And there's some companies coming up with business models that would be similar to an air taxi, but for the masses.
We had it Uber of the sky, right?
Yeah, we had a panel. We had a panel with Ivor von Dartel from Veridion and Joseph Muris from Electron Aerospace. Both Dutch entrepreneurs working on 9-seater aircraft. Do you think that's going to become really a thing? It's going to transform the way we think about executive aviation. It's going to become a mass thing. Is it possible that we're going to see, let's say, the majority of the people or a large amount of people getting used to this on-demand air mobility?
Well, I think the main driver is the battery technology. So at the moment you reach I call it always in my speeches, the magical 500 kilograms watt-hour performance of batteries. We are close, and CATL last couple of weeks already announced a ready for production battery in this performance range.
Sorry to interrupt you here. We had just a bit of self-promo here, but we had the founder and CEO of Cuberg, which is the aviation-focused subsidiary of Northvolt, here on the podcast. He was also giving some numbers about the progress they are making in batteries as well. So just parenthesis here for in case people want to check. I'm going to post a link as well.
and this will be the enabler for electric aviation and even a bigger one. So away from the 600 kilograms, super small 2-seater trainer aircrafts with 30 minutes range, which is the Pipistrel Avides Electro today. End of the year, Diamond will enter the market with it's called officially a 4-seater, but I think it's a 2.5 or 3-seater. The electric Diamond DR40, and it will grow into the bigger aircraft market as the performance of the batteries will increase. So yes, there will be a barrier at 500 watt hours per kilogram, and I think the most important thing will be around the 1,000 watt hour a kilogram. This will roughly enable some kind of Lilium jets. So and everything beyond that. So when will it be? So this is a very good question. This is a multi-million-dollar market question. When will it happen that we have batteries in this performance range, in a price tag range, and a cycle range that it will be useful for aircraft? So we will see that. But I think it will happen. And from today until this point in time, we need some bridging technologies, which is definitely the sustainable aviation fuel. Probably not only coming from whatever the old footstock we talked about, Miguel. We had a conversation with the RBP guys and with several other people there. This won't scale as much as we need that, but with more regenerative energy sources, we can generate more sustainable aviation fuel. And this will be, I would say, for the next couple of years, the solution to make even business aviation green and helping to answer the demand of the protesters we had in the EBACE as well.
Well, I completely agree that each step of battery technology will improve our ability to add missions onto what we're already doing. But let's look at what's possible with today's technology. Yep. Around 250 watt hours per kilogram. But on today's batteries, we've got Eve with Embraer able to fly 100 kilometers with 4 passengers. Lilium are saying they're going to be able to do 150 kilometers with a full load. And this is bearing with contingency fuel, with winds. This is practical usage.
Aviation was flying as well, fully electric today. Oh, well, a couple of months ago.
Exactly. And these are really exciting conventional takeoff, CTOL takeoff aircraft, which are going to be much more efficient because they're not burning that energy in the vertical takeoff. We've got Autoflight, who are represented at EBACE this year. Katrina was there telling us all about her amazing record, 250 kilometers on an electric aircraft with both a vertical takeoff and a vertical landing. So, 250 kilometers, vertical takeoff, vertical landing, that's incredible on today's battery.
Yep.
And we have to watch them closely with the link up potentially with the Chinese battery company that you just mentioned, CATL. So yes, every advancement in battery technology will allow us to do more. But let's look at what we're doing today. I mean, within the FlexJet group, we have 2 helicopter fleets here in Europe. We have one in London and bases in New York and now in Florida, in Miami. And let's take New York, for example. On that level of range, we'd be able to take passengers from Teterboro and fly them to Manhattan. Now, when we get that extra 5% efficiency, we'll be able to go to the Hamptons and back without recharging. So each 5% increase that we get, per year, let's hope, will allow us to stretch our legs with our advanced air mobility aircraft. So it is very exciting to look at the future, but it's also more exciting to me to look at what we can do now, today. In terms of SAF, yes, absolutely.
What I liked most here, Adam, is that you mentioned the new propulsion and energy systems are opening new markets. It's not anymore iterative. It is really a new market they can discover there. This is cool. So this is a market we don't have in the past.
Yes, we will be taking our customers from both the traditional markets, but I think when you can deliver passengers right to where they want to go, yes, you've got potential many new customers, and those customers aren't just business folks. They're not just holiday makers. We're talking about island communities that are really cut off and are supported by government routes. In Scotland, for example, the West Coast Islands, Norway, Sweden, we all have these routes that are really difficult for commercial operations. And with these aircraft, we're going to make really life-changing ability for people to live and be supported in these areas. We already, during COVID, were taking samples, Skyports operating drones to the Isle of Mull and back, proving today what we can do with advanced air mobility. Search and rescue, Bristow, who were at the EBACE this year, they've done lots of trials and operations with drones flying with their Coast Guard helicopters, getting eyes on the patient either in the sea or on the hillside 4 minutes before the helicopter arrives, allowing the pilots to go straight to where they needed to go and offering top cover. So yeah, tremendous new growth and new opportunities.
This is really fun because if you see how many millionaires, billionaires we had added to the group of millionaires the last couple of years, a couple of percentage, whatever, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4%. And this was a growth of the business aviation in the last couple of years. Again, a couple of whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8% growth percentage. And with the opening of new markets, new battery technologies, then you have an explosion of market coverage, potential new clients. And everyone who's using today a taxi is then able to use an air taxi, which is now in our aviation domain. So I see an amazing opportunity for the next couple of years in this market to explode in a kind of in revenue and even in market coverage and even new business models without adding more carbon to the emission pot. So this is the most important thing on that.
Do you think that that's going to maybe lead to a redefinition of what's considered executive aviation? I was talking with Adam's colleagues at EBAA there at the show, and they explained how they are much in touch with this new segment of the aviation industry that is emerging, because it seems that they fall under the natural umbrella of executive aviation, but we're talking about something a bit different because of all these new use cases that are emerging. So,
Miguel, I think when you're talking about definitions, Morel, I hear your frustration about the progress not being quick enough. And we felt the frustrations of the protesters who, were making their voice heard. we want to change within this industry. And in a way, it was a shame that we couldn't show those protesters exactly what we were doing inside the hall. It was a shame that they were outside. If they could come and walk and talk with us.
These guys probably won't talk. That's a problem. So
well, I don't know. I think everybody's prepared to pause, and I don't think we should just put up barriers. And I think we should embrace, and we should give.
That's the point. That's the point. Show them what's possible today, what you're doing. I found several conversations, especially with the really the fossil fuel industry is a little bit frustrating because it sounds sometimes very greenwashing-ish. But yes,
but on that topic, Morel, of greenwashing, and on your topic, Miguel, of definitions, there is no excuse anymore for a business aviation company not to understand exactly what they're burning, and for an aircraft owner to know exactly their route to improve. Now, at eBase, we had companies like 4Air. We had Kennedy and Nancy there with their team at 4Air. And these guys are absolute experts at understanding what damage each aircraft is doing to the planet. And we can't hide from that. We've got to understand it. And you've got to engage with companies like 4Air, and they will come in and make it very easy for an aircraft owner or an aircraft operator to understand what you're doing today, where you're buying your fuel from, how much you can buy SAF. Now, you don't have to put the actual liquid into your aircraft anymore. You can book and claim it. So you can unlock SAF around the world, even if it's not available at the airports you're flying to. And you can certainly do carbon offsetting, which we all know is a short-term product. But there are roadmaps now, and by engaging with companies like 4Air, they can make it actually not just easy for you, but they can add to the product that you're selling. If you're able to offer that as a service when an aircraft operator signs up to you, not only are we going to fly you around the world efficiently, but we're going to give you a monthly report exactly what fuel you're buying and when, and tracking your progress towards more zero emissions. It's a long road ahead. Let's not kid ourselves, but we can take steps today with companies like 4Air.
Especially in a market domain which is not so price sensitive. I think we should definitely force everyone to use as much sustainable aviation fuel as possible. Even it's a little bit more expensive, but as I said, it's probably not the most price sensitive way of flying.
That's what I was about to say. Like on one hand, you might have people saying, well, that's a bit like when people were buying indulgences from the church. On the other hand, if you have enough funds to fly private, probably you have enough funds to top it up with sustainable aviation fuel or pay for some mitigation. So yeah, in a way, I get this sensation that despite all the shortcomings, that also the executive aviation industry can act a bit as a test bank for many of these things, or like develop a market so that many of these things can be scaled up. This is the view that you guys have in the industry.
Yes. I mean, Morel, where do you think we're going?
Yeah, Adam, this is a wonderful question. So where we're heading, I think it will start as on the electrification on the ground transportation. We will start with small and more or less light vehicles, in this case aircrafts, as we have shown in the last couple of years with the Velis Electro. It will pave the way to a little bit bigger ones, as I said, with the Diamond DR40 in brackets a 4-seater, and then it will make their way to even more seats, bigger aircraft, and then commercial operations. And yes, the island hopping thing will be probably one of the first valuable business models, and then the electric vertical takeoff and landing, the Uber of the sky guys will take over the market, or will expand the market, I would say. And in regards of the business aviation we know today, which is a big market, I think the only way in the short term to make them sustainable will be the sustainable aviation fuel. And yeah, So I would give you a question back, Adam. So we're taking the podcast from legal completely over. Adam, what do you think about the H2 topic? So
well, let's kick off with again what's possible today. Voltero and Ampere. When you look at those hybrid aircraft, they're making incredible reductions in CO2, 85% reductions with their hybrid aircraft technology, which are flying today. Now, we've, over the past couple of decades, I guess, in private aviation, have had a sort of a love of the larger cabin. And so let's look at what would be possible with companies like ZeroAvia, which is based in the Cotswolds in the UK, and Art Aerospace in Sweden. I mean, they're building large aircraft. And I think private aviation will absolutely embrace those aircraft. Isn't it wonderful that perhaps the larger corporates who are flying private aviation, those individuals who can afford it, are paying for this technology improvement for everybody else to enjoy. And I think that's not unusual in technology when you look at, advancements in hi-fi technology, music technology. Of course, the early adopters are paving the way. And we had that with electric aircraft as well, multiple sectors. So quite right that business aviation is using the technology at the beginning, and then it's spread outwards.
One question, Adam. Do you think your customers in the executive aviation industry, well, I say your customers because of the One Sky Group, the Flexjet, the people that use these jets to go to business meetings, to conduct their very busy lives, are willing to sacrifice a bit of speed in exchange for flying more sustainably?
Well, I would absolutely say they're not just asking for it here in Europe, but corporates are demanding it. They need to show their sustainability credentials. If you're a listed company in Europe, you now have a duty to your shareholders to show exactly what carbon you're using and what your roadmap is to reducing it. So our customers here in Europe and in the States, especially the corporate ones, are pushing us to go further, and the phrase is normally push you to go further and faster, but that could equally be to go further and slower. And actually, it's what they're prepared to do. Yeah, I would. Let's not rule anything out. Of course, speed is of the essence and time saving, but everything's a compromise now. The world is changing fast, and we have to rethink some of our ideas.
Yeah, sorry, Morel, you were about to say something, I think.
No, absolutely.
I interrupted.
And regarding change, the world is changing fast. Adam, do you see in the last couple of 10, 20 years, a moment in time where we had so many disruptive technologies as well? So is this really a tipping point for the industry as I perceive that? Or it's only my limited view on the last 20 years? You're longer in the industry than I am. So what do you think? Do we have a tipping point?
No, I think we are. I think we are at a tipping point now with sustainability. It's not something that we can leave to tomorrow. It's something that we have to act on today. We have to do everything we can today to make improvements. We, of course, in private aviation, we've seen various new technologies come in. For example, we had a period of time where the very light jet sector, we had lots of different manufacturers trying to produce very light jets, and air traffic control were worried about where all of these aircraft were going to fly. Airports were going to be worried about where they were going to park them. And it was a bit of a bubble. And then we ended up with some fantastic, but a lot smaller number of OEMs producing them. Honda, the Mustang with Cessna, Cirrus. So for sure, there's been times within business aviation that we've seen new technology come in, and we've seen the hype, and then we've seen the curve come down the other side. This is a bigger wave, this sustainability. So whatever we're left with on the other side of the hype curve, it's going to be much bigger. So I do believe that we're at a turning point, Morel. Yes. Everybody's demanding it. Our customers are demanding it. The protesters are demanding it. Our governments are demanding it. The planet's demanding it. We have to change.
Mm-hmm. And then we have people that are putting this into action, like Morel. You are preparing a new challenge, yeah, to show the capabilities of electric aviation.
Yeah, this is always my mission, to make all this progress visible. Adam, you're working hard on that, a little bit behind the curtains and in the industry, and it's not always so visible to everyone. Yes, to everyone who's looking closely, yes, but not for everyone outside, even not for the protesters. And Miguel is doing a tremendous job to spread the world, which is so cool. Thank you so much for having us here. And
my pleasure.
And coming to the challenge thing in 1 second, Adam mentioned the ATC topic, so the air traffic control thing. Imagine hundreds of the electric vertical flying things in the already congested airspace will be a challenge for them as well. And I had the honor to open the annual strategy meeting of Austrocontrol in Vienna this year, with a keynote about the future of aviation and future of air traffic control. And I said, well, at the end, air traffic control will be talking machines to machines, not anymore people to people or humans, pilots to air traffic controllers on the ground. So we won't be able as a human to manage this kind of traffic. We are looking into the market growth. It will be something machine-to-machine communication and automotive flying, or remote-controlled autonomous flying. So there will be on this domain, on the technology, a disruptive change as well. So in the last couple of close to 100 years, we didn't have so many changes in the air traffic control. Yes, a lot of changes in details, but at the end, we are communicating the QNH via voice as always, and we're turning in our dashboard as always. So with all these air traffic control changes needed for the next couple of years, this won't be able to cover by humans. So a lot of changes coming here as well. And then regarding the challenge, we are trying to make a reality this year. There is another electric aircraft on the market now, which is the Electra Trainer, from the company called Electra Solar. And this is more a touring motor glider design. And with a 2.5 hours fully electric endurance, it's a game changer from the Pipistrel Velis Electro 2 years ago to the market. It's kind of factor 5 in endurance in 3 years. So this is a bold statement. Factor 5 in endurance in 3 years shows the progress in the industry. And this is mainly my mission, to make this visible to everyone. And we are trying to make a fun and silly race from the south of Germany to the north of Germany to the islands, as always, because this is the first where these operations make sense with this short, limited range. And we try to make it as fun as possible while challenging the aircraft against the car, which is most likely a Lucid Air car. The name in the product is Air, which is cool by accident anyway. But this car offers a range, or they promise a range, about 800 kilometers with one charge. So we are in the domain of 800 kilometers, in the ballpark of 800 kilometers range in cars. We are in the ballpark of 2.5 hours, which is roughly 250 kilometers range in aircraft. And we will see who will be first on the island. And if you're first, who will be the most efficient in terms of energy consumption? So let's see how this works out.
And I think it's a three-way challenge, because I think there's going to be someone traveling by train as well, yeah?
Yes. We have a train joker here. The train system in Germany is quite well. So, these ECE trains in Germany, the fast trains. We will see who will be first. But the Deutsche Bahn is not always on time. So... so this will make it a little bit more entertaining for everyone. So yeah, this is the idea behind that. That's something in for everyone. It's a little bit entertaining. It is not a serious race. It's more to show everyone where we are today, what's possible with technology, and you can have a lot of fun with that.
Very good, very interesting. So when you have more details about this, please send them, because that's something I would like to follow, and possibly we can write some note about that. I'm pretty sure that that's going to be of interest to many people. Well, we've covered lots of ground. The original idea was to do a very, very, very short recap, but there was so much going on at eBase this year that, yeah, time flies. So I want to thank you very much for being here today at also at very short notice. I know you guys are very busy and you made time for this, so really, really appreciate that. And yeah, let's see what the next eBase brings about. I'm sure lots of even more spectacular novelties.
Adam and me will fly electric over there. Is it a deal?
That is a great challenge, Morel.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Good.
Welcome, Miguel. Always an honor to be on your podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Before you go, and if you like this podcast, a quick reminder that it would be absolutely great if you could please give it a rating on Apple, Spotify, or whichever platform you're using, or recommend it to a friend or whomever might be interested. Thank you very much, and see you soon.